So the next part that we're going to take a look at is what happens when there's a set of parentheses. How does that affect our equation, and how do we solve using a set of parentheses? So when a set of parentheses are in an equation, okay, we know that according to order of operations, they are the first part to solve. Right? Now, when the variable is inside, there we go, okay, the parentheses, all operations outside the parentheses need to be removed first. Then we work into the parentheses. The first thing we need to do is need to get rid of all of the operations that are outside the parentheses, and then we're going to work our way in. Okay, so then we're going to work our way in, and then we're going to solve for what is inside. Now, a term which is outside the parentheses will be added or subtracted from each side to remove. Okay, so we added or subtracted from each side to remove. So let's take a look at this one right here, and we'll start with just kind of adding and subtracting right here. We notice that there's a set of parentheses in the equation, which means that we have to remove what's outside the equation, or sorry, what's outside the parentheses first before we work our way inside the parentheses. You'll notice here that we have this 3 on the outside. The first thing that we're going to do to get rid of it is we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Now, when we do that, we're removing that 3, and so all we're going to be left with is the parentheses. So all we're going to be left with is x plus 4 is equal to 9. Okay, so we have x plus 4 is equal to 9. Now, in this case here, once the parentheses are isolated, you notice that they're kind of all by themselves on the left-hand side. They can be removed. Okay, so once they've been isolated, we can remove them. So in essence, what we're going to do here is we're going to get rid of the parentheses, and we're just going to leave it just like that. Okay, so we're going to leave it just like that. And sorry, that should be subtract 4. There we go. Made that mistake. Sorry about that. It should be subtract 4. Now, all we need to do is work our way into the brackets, or sorry, work our way and finish this off here. So the first thing we're going to do here now to get rid of that minus 4 is to add 4 to it, and that is supposed to be a 4, not a 5. Okay, let's add 4, not 5. When we add 4, we're going to isolate our variable, and we're going to have x is equal to 13, and that's isolated, and that's getting it all by itself. Now, that's if there's a term on the outside. Parentheses can also be multiplied or divided by a value as well. Now, the thing is, those need to be removed before working. Sorry, they have to be removed before, there we go, working through the parentheses. So we need to remove that multiplying. So you'll notice here that this 3 is being multiplied to the parentheses. Now it could be multiplied into the parentheses, and then we could solve. That would work as well. But it's actually a little bit quicker if we just get rid of it right where it is. You'll notice that it's being multiplied to the parentheses. So it's just like we're multiplying 3 by some other number. And if we divide by 3, it will actually get rid of it. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I'm just going to write that in here, is to divide both sides by 3. Okay, and that is going to remove, or sorry, that's going to isolate parentheses. Okay, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. Now I'm going to go through, I'm going to do that here. I'm going to divide this side by 3, this whole thing, and we're going to divide this side by 3. Now, when we're doing this here, these threes cancel out because these two things are being multiplied together. Okay, so we think of it as just that multiplication. We're divided by 3. That's all it's getting rid of. And then this side is going to be divided by 3 as well. And so what that's going to leave us here is g minus 2 is equal to 18 divided by 3 is 6. That leaves us with g minus 2 is equal to 6. So really that's just it's the big thing of getting rid of that multiplying. Once we do that, it's a very straightforward one-step problem. Okay, and now again, I'm not saying it's simple. I'm just saying it's straightforward. It's a one step. Okay, so once the parentheses are alone, or what we can consider them to be isolated, they can be removed, as I mentioned before, to solve what's inside. Okay, so now the parentheses have been removed, and now we can solve what we have inside. So the final thing that we're going to do now is we're going to complete the equation and solve for the variable. We complete the equation and then we solve for the variable. So in this case here, what we're doing is to get rid of that minus 2, we add 2 to both sides and add 2 to this side here. Okay, and when we do that, we get the g all by itself. And in this case here, you notice that we're solving for g, and this side is going to be 8. And this side is going to be 8. Now, the other thing that we need to be aware of as well, and I'll just leave that up there so that you can all see, is that we need to remember that the numerator there you go, of the fraction acts and there like a set of parentheses. It acts like a set of parentheses. So in this case here, you'll notice that the y minus 5 is the whole thing, that whole parentheses of y minus 5, which you can't see but are there, is being divided by 2. So if we are going to solve for that, okay, first thing we need to do is remove the denominator by multiplying by 2. Okay, so if we multiply by 2, and again, we're going to multiply both sides by 2, that's going to get rid of the denominator. So we're going to multiply by 2, we're going to multiply by 2. You notice I'm using this little dot instead of that x. That's a little bit cleaner, so to speak, a little bit nicer. When we multiply by 2, remember that we had that y minus 5, which was in brackets, but now because it's going to be all by itself, we can just leave it the way it is. And 11 times 2 is 22. So again, we got rid of the denominator, and when we did that, it really opens up our the equation and makes it a whole lot easier to solve. Okay, so it does make it a lot easier to solve. And as I said, once the denominator has been removed, it no longer has the power. It's been removed. Okay. Okay. Then we solve what was in the numerator, which has now become numerator. There we go. Which has now just become a regular equation for us to solve. So now it's just become a basic equation ready for us to solve. I'm going to use this. Okay, so here we add 5 to this side, we add 5 to this side, and we are left with, okay, those 5s are going to cancel out, right? Minus 5 plus 5, we're left with y is equal to 27. It's y is equal to 27. So again, we have to remove that either multiplying or dividing to get what's inside the parentheses all by itself. Please work on questions 8 through 10, okay, solving for the variable.